Well, good morning, everyone, and happy Valentine's Day to everyone. Welcome to Trio Maryland's February 2026 meeting. I'm Marty Marin, and this is my wife, Michelle, and we manage Trio Maryland. And we like to welcome all of our members and guests this morning, and thank you for attending. Today's topic is advancing science and medical education via body donation, and it's being presented by a group called Anatomy Gift Registry. Such information is very useful for all of us. The March 14th meeting I wanted to bring to your attention because we're going to have our first in-person of the year at the Infinite Legacy offices. At that meeting, we're going to have the Shock Trauma Department from the University of Maryland Medical Center present to us. And right now, I'm going to have Michelle take over and introduce our speaker today.
Good morning. Happy Valentine's Day. Today's guest speaker is Erin Silvers, Donor Service Coordinator and Marketing and Education Coordinator at Anatomy Gift Registry. We're real fortunate to have Erin address the Trio Maryland community today. Thank you, Erin, for presenting to our group. Welcome, and I now turn the program over to you.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Erin Silvers, and I'm a Donor and Family Services Coordinator for Anatomy Gifts Registry. Today, I'm going to introduce Anatomy Gifts and share information about whole body donation and what that looks like with our program and how to register if you're interested. So, Anatomy Gifts Registry, or AGR, is a whole body donation program that exists to support advancements in medical science and research. We were founded in 1994, and we're formally recognized as a 501c3 nonprofit since 1996. We have our own crematory on site, so this means everything from the donation process to the cremation is done here in-house at our facility. We voluntarily sought oversight from one of the few states in the U.S. that offer a tissue banking license. So we are an accredited tissue bank through the New York State Department of Health. We then sought and achieved further oversight through the accreditation of American Association of Tissue Banking, or AATB. Most of the management staff at AGR are AATB certified tissue banking specialists. And at this time, we have over 20,000 pre-registered healthy donors with our program. So the question begs is, what is whole body donation? So whole body donation, otherwise known as anatomical donation, is the donation of a whole body after death for the purposes of advancing medical research and education. It's a no-cost alternative to traditional arrangements that still allow for the return of cremated remains. A lot of the times we get the question of what is the difference between body donation and organ donation, because they are confused quite often. So there are a few drastic differences. The heart on your ID or on your license means that you've consented to organ or tissue donation. That does not encompass registration for whole body donation. Organ and tissue donation is when organs or tissues are recovered and then transplanted into another living human being for life-saving or life-enhancing measures, such as heart transplants, skin grafts, cornea transplants, and things along those lines. Whole body donation is when a deceased person's body is utilized for medical education and research, such as cadavers for medical schools, extremities for joint replacement surgeries, EMS. Oh, I'm so sorry about that. EMS and first responder training. And then just to clarify, it is highly unlikely for somebody to be an organ or tissue donor if you pass outside of a hospital setting. So if you're at home in an assisted living, nursing facility, hospice house, because of the limitations required for organ donation, it's very unlikely for that to happen. But when organ donation is not an option, whole body donation is still a way to be able to donate and give back if that's a wish that you would like to fulfill. And with our program, if somebody is registered to be an organ donor, they can remain an organ donor. We fully support shared donation, which means if a donor is able to provide organs or tissues for life-saving procedures, that would happen first, and then we would still be able to accept the body after donation for anatomical donation. And then when transplant is not an option, again, whole body still provides a way for that opportunity for the donor to make a difference in the lives of others. Each donor that goes through our program is able to benefit anywhere from 4 to 5 different avenues of medical research and education. So just one donor that comes through our program has the ability to impact immeasurable lives. Surgeons must first learn how to harvest blood vessel grafts for bypass. Oncologists must be able to research less invasive procedures for tumor resection. First responders and EMS need to know how to do airway intubations. So every donor that goes through our program is affording that experience and education to the first responders and healthcare providers that go on to save lives. And then with our program, some of the research and education endeavors that our donors are placed for is advancement and training of surgical techniques, medical device research and development, the develop of organ tissue recovery and transplantation. We also deal with biomechanics studies, hearing and vision impairment studies. And then we also do Alzheimer's, dementia, Parkinson's. We're able to, coordinate those types of donations as well. And then the question is often prompted, well, why would somebody choose whole body donation? There tend to be a few different driving factors on why somebody may choose to donate their body to science as opposed to traditional burial or cremation. Many choose this option for financial availability. There is no cost for whole body donation, unlike traditional funeral or cremation arrangements. Some people don't have the means to pay for traditional arrangements due to financial hardship, while others may indeed have the ability to make the payments or pay in full for those types of services. They see it as an unnecessary cost when other options exist. And then others are interested in the educational advancement aspect of donation. So they have a desire to pay forward or show appreciation for training or education that they themselves experienced or that their family may have, in nursing school, dental school, things along those lines. We often hear stories from donors or donor families that they remember the donor that they utilized to become a physical therapist, a dentist, or a nurse. So they understand how impactful and how important it is for one to learn in such a meaningful way. They also tend to recall gratitude that they felt for the donor who supplied them and, were able to afford their education and the opportunity that they've been given. And then we have a lot of donors that just see it as a humanitarianism thing. So donation is just a practical thing to do. And essentially, if their donation or body can help somebody, they'd like to let it do so. And then there are just a few things that kind of set Anatomy Gifts apart from other whole body donation programs. So I just would like to go through those. Out of the 7 AATB accredited whole body donation programs that work nationwide, Anatomy Gifts is just one of 3 that is a nonprofit. Donation can be arranged in advance or by your next of kin after passing. So AGR follows the Uniform Anatomical Gift Act, which covers all legal aspects for donation and who can authorize or consent. We work hand in hand with transplant recovery programs and can still proceed with donation even after an autopsy or organ and tissue recovery has been done. With our program, cremated remains are returned quickly, so typically within a 4 to 6 week time frame. It is partial cremation, but some programs it may take up to 2 years to get ashes back. The other cool thing about Anatomy Gifts is we work nationwide. So if somebody registers with us while they're living in Maryland and they go to Delaware, Pennsylvania, Florida for end of life care with their family, just because they've moved outside of the state, that wouldn't negate or affect their ability to be donated to us. We service majority of the United States, and we have a very wide service area. With our program as well, families can request that donation supports a specific area of research or education. So while not always guaranteed, our director does exhaust all efforts to try to honor those wishes. And then with our tissue placement, AGR partners with both research and education endeavors, both internationally and domestically. So we're able to not only, benefit research and education within the US, but also other countries as well. And then one of the things that our program offers is a follow-up letter, and that allows families to read about the research and education placements that their loved one was able to benefit towards through their donation with our program. There's just a few things that I'd like to kind of highlight about Anatomy Gifts as well as the staff that we have. We place the highest priority on supporting our donor families. Our dedicated donor and family services coordinators are available 24/7 to assist families before, during, and after donation. We're all trained to handle sensitive situations with compassion and understanding, and many families express the deep gratitude for the kindness and comfort that our team was able to provide to them during a rather difficult time. And then, as mentioned, we may be able to accommodate special requests from families, such as cremating personal items with a donor, as long as it's an item that is crematable, returning donor thumbprints or a lock of hair, transferring cremated remains into an urn or a piece of jewelry for families that live locally and are able to pick up ashes from our facility. And then, as stated, previously, in some cases, donation can even be directed towards a particular area of education and research when it's requested by a donor or their family. And then with our program, there's the option to donate with or without cremated remains to be returned. All cremations are completed at AGR's facility. We do not outsource for that. This allows us to see every step from the intake of the donor to the tissue recovery to the cremation to the return of ashes. Everything is done from beginning to end at our facility. Cremated remains are those of an individual. It's never a mass cremation or multiple donors. So the ashes that are being returned to families are that of an individual. And then, as stated before, we return partial cremated remains. So, what that means is after the tissues are placed for medical research and education, any tissue that was not utilized for science is individually cremated and returned in that 4 to 6 weeks time frame. With the partial cremation, this allows us to maximize the donor's impact while also providing timely closure to the families with that 4 to 6 week return. And then with families that do live local to our facility in Hanover, they are able to come pick up from our facility if they'd like. But we do also ship the ashes throughout the United States via USPS priority mail. There is a $35 shipping and handling fee that we ask families to cover. And that just takes care of, the logistics and the cost of the actual shipment. Remains are sent when they're ready, regardless of payment. So once the ashes are available, we schedule that shipment and it typically arrives within 2 to 3 business days of the shipping date. And then we do follow strict procedures to ensure the lawful, safe, and respectful return of cremated remains. And then getting registered with Anatomy Gifts or becoming a donor is very easy. We would advise to give us a call at any time. We're available 24/7. There's a few pre-screening questions to go over, and that'll help us determine eligibility and the right type of donation or registration, whether you're calling for yourself or for a loved one. There are a few different types of registration that we offer. So for people that are healthy and planning for the future, we simply mail them a registration packet. It's an application as well as consent forms. They fill it out, they mail it back in. Once we receive it, we then call the donor to review. At the time of review, we finalize the registration, and then they receive an acceptance letter and donor cards shortly after that. And then we have future donor registrations. So this is for people that are not competent or able to sign themselves up for donation due to dementia, if they're at end of life care. In this type of situation, the family would ultimately do the registration for their loved one. They would complete the application ahead of time and get their loved one assigned a future donor number. And then at the time of passing is when the legal next of kin would actually authorize for donation, because that would be the one thing that we can't do prior to the donor's passing. And then we also allow for at-need time of registrations. So for somebody who has already passed away and they're not registered with us, we would just need to be called. We would do our pre-screening right then and there. And then we would determine eligibility and proceed with paperwork. This would require us to do the application over the phone at time of passing, obtain authorization, and then at that point, the donor is officially accepted and we're able to arrange transport. For at-need donations, it takes about, I'd say, 45 minutes worth of paperwork to get everything finalized, and then transport typically arrives within about an hour to an hour and a half. And then just to clarify, pre-registration is helpful, but it's not required. So donation can still occur at time of death. So at this point, if you are interested or have any questions, don't hesitate to put them in the chat, but take the next step to register with AGR and donate with your whole being. Thank you guys for your time.
That's great. That's really quick and concise. I think it's really important today about the fact that you do all the cremations at your facility, because over the last years, we've heard a lot of horror stories about cremations kind of going awry and not happening as the family was expecting, etc. There are some questions, but we did have someone that had emailed us yesterday, John, and he had already had an experience with Anatomy Gift Registry, and he kind of wanted to share that experience with everyone here today. So
Yeah,
thank you.
that'd be great.
John?
Okay, thank you. I'm John Gersh. I know some people may know me. My wife, Alice, who was a lung transplant recipient, that's why we're here at TRIO, died earlier this week. She had expressed a desire that her body be used for research or education. And at the suggestion of the hospice, who were taking care of her at the end in her assisted living home, we contacted the Anatomy Gift Registry. And as Erin described, the process was very simple. We had called what turned out to be a couple days beforehand and went through the telephone process of becoming registered and filling out the application and so forth, and then going over it with a representative in another phone call. And then when the time came, as Erin said, there was one phone call to make. There were some additional authorization forms to be done electronically, which didn't take very long. And within the hour that she said, a representative came to collect Alice's body. It was very simple. It was a very comfortable way to honor her last wishes. As everyone who heard it said, that when we told them that Alice had wanted her remains to be used for education and research, they all said that's so Alice, that she wanted to keep on helping people even after she died. And the gift registry made that possible. So I thank you and recommend it to anybody else who needs this in the future.
John, thank you very much. We're very sorry about your loss, losing Alice, but thank you for sharing your experience with Anatomy Gift Registry. Erin, we do have some questions.
Yeah,
If you'd like to go through them.
sure. Go ahead. All right. So Jerry had asked, what are your feelings about people who pass away with Alzheimer's when they pass away, donating their bodies or brain for study? So with our program specifically, we're whole body donation only. If we are notified ahead of time and in advance that the family would like a specific area of research and education for Alzheimer's or dementia or any brain related conditions, typically we coordinate those through a brain bank, just because they're more versed and experienced in the actual like neurologic type of donations for research and education. So as long as a family is interested in that type of donation and they explicitly let us know, we exhaust all efforts in coordinating you guys with a brain bank. or with Maryland donors who pass in Maryland and are brought directly to our facility, a lot of the times we can facilitate the brain recovery and getting that to the brain bank. So we would just need to be notified, if that is something that the family's interested in, and we'll walk you guys through the steps and the logistics and that specific type of research for dementia or Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, ALS, or any neurologic related condition, specifically. So, with our program, I'm not 100% sure. Sorry, the question was through your trade associations, are you familiar with other state organizations that do the same thing specifically in Wyoming? I'm not 100% sure of any donation programs in Wyoming. But I do have like a master list that's like classified by state. And I think we service the state of Wyoming. We just have a limited area depending on the county. But I can get the list of Wyoming-based programs over to, Marty if they would like to get that to you, Jim. That's not a problem. And then is there a fee to get body to you, especially if out of state? No. So we cover all costs for the transportation, donation, and cremation. So there is no cost to utilize our services or to donate to our program. When we have to involve a funeral home for out-of-state donors to do like the pickup, the filing of the paperwork, and then ultimately get the donor to us in Maryland, either be driving or via flight, depending on the distance. All of those charges we absorb and cover. So we are cost free. There is no hidden fees associated, even for out of state donations. And then Kelly had said, although your website has a notice on the front page that you have resumed accepting donations from Texas, I don't see there's a list of all the states you accept gifts from anywhere on your website. So our service area is pretty wide. It's really just county dependent. So what would happen is if you call in to pre-register, we'll ask where you live. And then we would determine if it is an area that we service. If it's not an area that we service, we would, provide you a list of programs that would work within that state or that area. That is a good point though, and it's definitely something that I'll bring up for us to add to our website on our service areas. It just gets a little tricky because like on the West Coast and in the Midwest, we don't service states as an entirety. We service counties depending on where we have funeral home availability. And then June asked if she's already registered, how does she update her information? Just give us a call. We'll ask for either your registration number or we can look you up by name. We'll verify your address, verify, your consent form on file if you're with or without ashes. Any changes that need to be made, a lot of the times we can do that verbally and over the phone when it comes to updating your contact or your address and things along those lines. And then Carolyn asked if death occurs while person is in the hospital, does the hospital call AGR? So no, the hospital doesn't know to call us if somebody's registered unless the family explicitly stated that. When the hospital is contacting an agency, they're reaching out to the organ transplant bank. Just by law, they have to report all deaths to the local OPOs to determine if that person would be suitable, eligible, or if they're registered for any kind of organ or tissue donation. And I always advise families when a loved one passes to call us yourself, just because there are a lot of body donation programs, especially in Maryland. There's us, and then there's also the Maryland State Anatomy Board. We're not affiliated, we're not the same program, we're completely separate entities, but we're confused a lot. So when donors need to be called for us, they call the Anatomy Board and vice versa. So I always instruct families at time of passing just to make sure that they call us themselves to report the death. Because relying on hospital staff, hospice staff, unfortunately, things get convoluted. There's a lot of things that are going on. And it could just be, the wrong name is documented in the chart, and then we're never notified of the passing. So just to ensure that you're calling, us about your loved one, I always advise to make that call directly by the family. My current question is the option at the MVA regarding education and research donation, is that connected to anatomy gifts registry? If so, would that be considered the same as completing registration form? So the research and education donation, that pertains to the heart on your license still. So with that heart, it encompasses both organ and tissue donation for transplant, but it also allows for them to do recovery for research and education only, even if you're not an eligible candidate to be a transplant donor. So that heart on your license is still encompassing that type of donation. With whole body donation, you would still need to call for us to do a pre-screening and get you officially registered with us, because at the MVA, that's in relation to organ and tissue donation, which does not translate to our type of registration. Whole body donation is a specific registration on its own through whatever program you decide to go through, whether it's anatomy gifts, or any of the other programs. And then what is the phone number? So our toll-free number is 800-300-5433, and that's a 24/7 line. We always have staff on service, holidays, weekends, after hours. And then Carolyn asked, how does AGR differ from the state program? So I'll speak based on, the little bit of knowledge I do have about the anatomy board. To my understanding is that they're funded through the state, and all of their donors are donated towards Maryland medical schools. With our program, we do different donations outside of medical schools, but we also don't just work in the state of Maryland. So any donor that goes through our program, it's not necessarily going to go to a medical school. It could be going to an orthopedic training, surgical training or technology center, dental schools, and things like that. But we place our donor tissue both internationally and domestically, with the anatomy board. To my understanding, I'm pretty sure that they only place their donors within Maryland medical schools or research and education in Maryland. Right. I think that was the last question. Does anybody have any other questions?
I think this was great, Erin. I think it was very informative. The deck that Erin presented will be on our website by next week, and you'll also receive a link to the recording next week, as I had said earlier. So
Yes.
thank you so much. Great
Of course.
information.
Thank you guys for your time. If you have any questions at any point, please don't hesitate to give us a call. If you're not sure if you're eligible, if you're not sure if you live in an area that we service, it takes 2 minutes for us to do a general screening to make sure that you're in an area or state we work in. And if not, we do try to provide you resources to be able to register with a program in your area if we don't service. But basically, majority of the US, so the entire eastern side of the United States, we service in its entirety. And then the Midwest and the West is where we go based on counties. But if you ever have a question or aren't sure if you fall within our service area or criteria, just give us a call. We're more than able to talk with you guys for any questions you might have about registration, or if you're in an area we service.
And before I close out the meeting, I just want to remind you that next month, March 14th, we will have a live meeting at Infinite Legacy. We will be providing coffee and donuts as an incentive to get there. So, just let me know if there's a special request. But otherwise, I want to thank everyone for attending today. We love seeing your smiling faces every month, trust me. And check out our events page on the website for advance notices of our future meetings. And our website is www.triomaryland.org. And once again, as Michelle said, all of our past meetings are posted on our YouTube channel for your convenience. Have a great weekend and happy Valentine's Day, everyone.
Thank
Happy
you, Erin.
Valentine's Day. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.